Hello and welcome to our webinar, Best Book Club Picks. I'm Susan Maguire, Senior Editor, Collection Management and Library Outreach at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into that box that appears. We'll do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select show or hide captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting caption settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Rachel Tran, Associate Marketing Manager at Penguin Random House, Melissa Croce, Senior Marketing Manager at Simon & Schuster, Katie Vaughn, Marketing Manager for Bloomsbury Publishing, Kathy Weiss, Director of Sales and Marketing at Europa Editions, and Kendra Martin, Sales and Marketing Manager at Dundurn Press. First, we'll hear from Rachel Tran. Rachel is an Associate Marketing Manager with Penguin Random House Adult Library Marketing. She studied broadcast journalism at the University of Florida, where she fed a lifelong love of storytelling and swampy things that go bump in the night. She loves gothic fiction, thrillers, and books about ghosts of all kinds. Thanks for joining us, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm Rachel with Penguin Random House Adult Library Marketing, and I'm excited to present a really great group of titles we think your book clubs will love. Next slide, please. So first, I'd like to showcase some of the book club resources on our website. You can check out our excerpt samplers or browse our seasonal catalogs organized by genre. And of course, we have our book club brochures filled with discussion guides and questions for some of our most popular book club picks. Next slide, please. You can also sign up for our e-newsletters where we share a myriad of great content, popular new releases, galley giveaways, awards news, where to find us at other book buzzes and conferences, and so much more. You can subscribe by visiting our website, penguinrandomhouselibrary.com, or at the tiny URL below. Next slide, please. And speaking of conferences, we are headed to Philly, and we're so excited. So come visit us at ALA Annual. We're booth 1706, and you can grab the latest great galleys, catch author signings, and even more resources for your book clubs. We'll be sharing more information about our authors in the coming weeks, so please stay tuned. Next slide, please. And now we're on to the books. First up, I'd like to present Jamaica Road. This is a transformative love story about two best friends who fall for each other, fall apart, and try to find their way back together in their tight-knit British Jamaican community. Our story starts in South London in 1981. Daphne is the only Black girl in her class, and all she wants to do is keep her head down, preferably in a book. The easiest way to survive is to go unnoticed. And Daphne's attempts at invisibility are upended when a boy named Connie Small arrives from Jamaica. Connie is the opposite of Small in every way, lanky, outgoing, and unapologetically himself. Daphne tries to keep her distance, but Connie is magnetic and they form an intense bond. As they navigate growing up in a volatile, rapidly changing city, their families become close, and their friendship begins to shift into something more complicated. When Connie reveals that he and his mother are in England illegally, Daphne realizes that she is dangerously entangled in Connie's fragile home life. And soon, long-buried secrets in both families threaten to tear them apart permanently. This is perfect for fans of Britt Bennett, Candace Carty-Williams, and for readers of Sally Rooney's Normal People. And Lisa was also featured at our recent virtual Spring Book and Author Festival, so please check her out on our YouTube channel on the Group Reads panel. Next slide, please. And next up, we have Indian Country, new from the award-winning author of Girls Burn Brighter. A couple from India, So different from generations of white colonialists who came before them, moved to Montana only to discover the secrets the land holds in this stunning literary novel. Janavi and Sager were never meant to end up married. Janavi is a wonderfully independent, young, modern Indian woman. She works for an organization in India that helps street children, often lost to the world of human trafficking. Sager is a trained hydraulic engineer and an expert in dam construction. He is the least favorite son, his parents never able to forgive him for an unspeakable act from his past. Sager seeks refuge in his daydreams of one day finding hidden treasures in the fabled Indian river, the Ganges. Yet the two are forced together in an arranged marriage which neither of them wants. Even worse, Sager has already accepted a job in America in a strange place called Montana, where he will be in charge of dismantling a dam. Montana upends all their expectations. Sager's white colleagues do not welcome him with open arms, and Janavi finds herself unable to forgive her sister who stayed behind in India, whose betrayal led her to this marriage and the strange place. When a colleague of Sager's is found drowned, he is the obvious scapegoat. But is this death one in a long history of people of color paying the price for the white man's arrogance and expansionism? A bold, ambitious, stunningly beautiful yet brutal novel about colonialism and the rippling ramifications still felt today, Indian Country is a tour de force modern day classic, perfect for readers of the Heaven and Earth grocery store and homegoing. Next slide, please. Next up, we have This Kind of Trouble, a debut, riveting tale of forbidden love centered on an estranged couple brought together to reckon with the mysterious events that splintered their family. In 1960s Lagos, a city enlivened with its newfound independence, headstrong Margaret meets British-born Benjamin, a man seeking his roots after the death of his half-Nigerian father. Despite Margaret's reluctance, their connection is immediate. They fall in love in the dense, humid city, examining what appears to be their racial and cultural differences. However, as they exchange childhood stories during lazy work lunches, they uncover a past more entangled than they could have ever imagined. This is a novel for readers who flock to gorgeous prose, family sagas, and startling characterization in the vein of Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson and Stay With Me by Ayabami Adebayo. Next slide, please. Next up, we have Loved One. From an Emmy Award-winning writer comes a funny, wise, heartbreaking story about a woman journeying into the unknown in the wake of sudden loss. When her first love turned close friend Gabe dies unexpectedly at 29, 30-year-old Julia is launched into an intercontinental quest to recover his lost possessions. Her journey takes her from Los Angeles to London and into the murky realm of the past. It also sets Julia on a collision course with the last woman he loved, a guarded, self-possessed florist and restaurateur named Elizabeth, who insists on withholding Gabe's beloved guitar for reasons Julia can't understand. Both women, it turns out, have something to hide, and soon find themselves engaged in a complex dance of withholding a revelation. This is for readers of complex love stories and old loves rekindled like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, romantic comedy, and Daisy Jones and the Six. Next slide, please. Next is Mercy, a rich and nuanced story beginning with a moment of fear and abandonment that will reverberate across decades and change the course of many lives, by a beloved Penn, Faulkner, and National Book Critics Circle Award-winning author. In the gritty East Village of 1970s New York, Ivan and his best friend Eddie, a popular local bartender, are dabbling in drugs following a short tour of Europe. One night, as Ivan and Eddie experiment with heroin, things go horribly wrong. In a panic, Ivan rushes Eddie to a crowded local ER and, believing his friend is about to die, makes the awful choice to leave him there. This one act of abandonment haunts Ivan his entire life. Following a bold cast of characters across decades and set against the changing social and sexual mores from the 1970s onward, Mercy is Joan Silver's most ambitious and expansive novel yet, proving once again how we are all connected in mysterious and often unknown ways. This is perfect for readers of Alice Munro, Lauren Groff, and Julia Phillips. Next slide, please. Next is The Water Bearers, My Mother, My Grandmother, and the Women Who Carried Me, a sweeping narrative of the unique beauty and trials of Black matriarchy in America that waves a sharp, tender examination of three single Black mothers, the author's grandmother, mother, and the author herself, with stories of influential Black women in our culture. Generations of Black women have borne children, borne the burdens of events untold, and borne witness to unspeakable trials. The Water Bearers carries this history, its fierce eloquence capturing a masterpiece of life written by an author who was intimately acquainted with how Black women have passed down knowledge and culture. Sacha Bonet doesn't just present genealogical lineages, but illuminates the cultural and societal connections of strong Black women who have built legacies and changed the world, sometimes in the most mundane of moments. This is for readers of Toni Morrison's fiction and nonfiction and Sarah M. Broom's Yellow House, And Sasha was also a panelist from our recent Spring Virtual Festival, so please check her out on our YouTube channel in the Personal Stories panel. Next slide, please. Next, we have The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny, a spellbinding story of two young people whose fates intersect and diverge across continents and years. An epic of love, family, India and America, tradition and modernity by the Booker Prize winning author of The Inheritance of Loss. When Sonia and Sunny first glimpse each other on an overnight train, they are immediately captivated yet also embarrassed by the fact that their grandparents had once tried to matchmake them, a clumsy meddling that only served to drive Sonia and Sunny apart. The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny is the sweeping tale of two young people navigating the many forces that shape their lives: country, class, race, history, and the complicated bonds that link one generation to the next. A love story, a family saga, and a rich novel of ideas, it is the most ambitious and accomplished work yet by one of our greatest novelists. This is perfect for readers of The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, and Northwoods by Daniel Mason. Next slide, please. And last but not least, we have Underspin, where Stage Rue meets Headshot in this intimate, bruising coming-of-age novel about the short and tumultuous life of a charismatic table tennis prodigy as seen through the eyes of those pulled into his orbit. Ryan Lowe begins playing table tennis at the age of 8 under the tutelage of his brilliant but ruthless coach Christian, who sees talent in him that might be nurtured into greatness. Throughout an adolescence circumscribed by Christian's demanding behavior, Ryan forms jealousy-fueled and mutually adoring friendships with his teammates and competitors, then falls in love with fellow table tennis star Annabelle Yu, and, above all, wins championships. By 21, Ryan ascends all the way to the highest echelon of international table tennis, just as he was supposed to, but he doesn't stay there. It is clear to all that Ryan Lowe was meant to be the greatest in the world. Instead, he abandons the competition and is dead by his 25th birthday. A love letter to an underdog sports circuit and a tender exploration of love, loss, and abuse, Underspin is a Bildungsroman and literary puzzle for readers of Rita Bullwinkle, Hua Su, and Susan Choi. Next slide, please. You can request e-galleys of all these great new books at the tiny URL on the screen, and that's it for me. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Next, we'll hear from Melissa Croce. Melissa is the Senior Marketing Manager for Adult Library Titles at Simon & Schuster. She's been with the company since 2020, and when she's not reading everything from romance novels to poetry to narrative nonfiction, she likes to root for her many favorite hockey teams, play D&D, and watch K-dramas. Thanks for being here today, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Susan. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'll be sharing some upcoming fall titles that will hopefully become new favorites. Next. I've got both fiction and nonfiction titles, so hopefully there is something for every type of book club here. Next. First up in fiction, we have At Last by Marissa Silver. This is perfect for book clubs who love to read sagas about complicated family dynamics. Set in mid-century America, At Last explores the dynamic between two fierce and competitive matriarchs. Helen and Evelyn's lives intersect when their children marry. Both women are very similar in personality. They're sharp, cunning, and stubborn in their beliefs, which of course are the very opposite. From marriage to family duty, they can't agree on anything. With a shared granddaughter in the mix, competition for her affection further strains their relationship. A vivid portrait of the American Midwest, this book explores Helen and Evelyn's lives from their disparate childhoods to the events that define them both, and what happens when an unwanted, even unintended relationship turns out to be a central one. Next. This is Happiness and Love by Zoe Dubno. This follows an unnamed narrator whose past was once comprised of New York's artistic world and the self-important people who inhabited it. She has since left New York, but she is now back in town for the funeral of her former best friend Rebecca, and has no intention of stepping back into the artistic world or seeing those people. However, of course, she runs into Eugene, who is one half of an artistic couple who was at the center of her old social set. He invites her to a dinner party, and against her better judgment, she goes. What unfolds there will be a disastrous scene that not even she could have predicted. Melissa Broder, author of Death Valley, sums up this novel perfectly. She called it zeitgeisty and timeless, cynical, but not soulless. This propulsive debut is for lovers of Thomas Bernard, art over theory, and anyone who has ever wondered, what the hell am I doing here? She said, it's fabulous. Next. Far away from the glittering New York, our next novel, The Bells by Lacey Dunham, takes place on a secluded college campus. Perfect for dark academia lovers, readers follow freshman Dina Williams, incoming class of 1955. An outsider trying to blend in with her wealthy peers, she knows that networking is survival and hits the jackpot when she forms an alliance that is singled out by the college president's wife as the most promising girls of their class, who anoint them the Bells. Young, wealthy, and beautiful, the Bells' antics make the plastics look like child's play. Soon, Dina begins to piece together the sinister history of Bellarton College, which threatens the breaking of the careful construction of her own past, and she'll have to make a choice about who she really wants to be. Next. Horror fans, this one is for you. You might know Andrew Joseph White for his YA novels, but this is his adult debut, You Weren't Meant to Be Human. Alien meets Midsummer in this chilling novel about identity, survival, and transformation amidst an alien invasion set in rural West Virginia. Said aliens, festering masses of worms and flies, have taken over Appalachia, but never let it be said that they aren't merciful. In exchange for unwavering loyalty and fresh corpses, the hives offer a few struggling humans salvation. It's an offer they literally can't refuse. Crane is among one of the chosen, and he finds himself grateful for more than just his life. As a hive follower, he can transition and live the life that he truly wants. He's even found love in the form of Levi, a handsome, brutal ex-military man. But when Levi gets Crane pregnant and the hive demands the child's birth, Crane's desperation for free will could drive the community that once saved him into a spiral that can only end in blood. Next. The Many Mothers of Dolores Moore by Anika Fajardo is ideal for fans of Rebecca Searle, Elizabeth Acevedo, and anyone who loves magical realism. This book follows Dolores Moore, a woman in her mid-30s who has just buried the last living member of her family. Dory is alone now, except for the Greek chorus of deceased relatives whose voices follow her around, giving unsolicited advice and opinions. And what they're all urging her to do is to keep the deathbed promise she made to return to her birthplace in Colombia. Armed with only a hand-drawn map, Dory sets off to find out where and who she really came from. Next. Alternating between the past and the present with a colorful ensemble of characters, The Wasp Trap by Mark Edwards is a fast-paced and twisty thriller that fans of Lucy Foley and Alice Feeney will love. And why not? There's a little bit of Clue and Knives Out Glass Onion in this as well. Six friends reunite in London to celebrate the life of their recently deceased ex-employer, a professor that brought them together in the late 90s to help build a dating website based on psychological testing. But soon, that reunion turns into a deadly game. The friends are giving an ultimatum: reveal their darkest secrets to the group or pick each other off one by one. It soon becomes clear that their current predicament is related to their shared past developing that dating website and ensuring that psychopaths were weeded out by using a complex love questionnaire known as the wasp trap. But can they use their wits to reveal the wasp that's been hiding amongst them all along and make it out alive? You'll have to read to find out. Next. All right, moving on to nonfiction. Next. Breaking Awake, a reporter's search for a new life and a new world through drugs by P.E. Moskowitz is for those who enjoy long-form news articles, exposés, and anything that is straight from the headlines. This book is a riveting journey that explores our national mental health and drug use crisis while also searching for answers as to how we can find a path forward to collective healing. After a nervous breakdown themselves, Moskowitz focused on the world of drugs and mental health and how they intersected. In the book, they take readers on a voyage through our country's collective mental health collapse and the drugs that we take to cope with the gnawing bleakness of our present moment. In a cross-country tour of drug use, they question whether drugs can spark liberation or simply quell the pain of modern life. Is it time to view drugs differently, and are they able to help us envision a different future? Next. Okay, so I have to confess that I had never heard of Jen Hatmaker before their editor of this book introduced me to the memoir. But for her fans, this is a must-read, a brutally honest, funny, and revealing memoir about the traumatic end of her 26-year-long marriage and the beginning of her own journey. Through the implosion of her marriage and subsequent breakdown, Jen dares to question the religious and cultural systems that brought her to this point, reckoning with the multitude of myths, half-truths, and lies that hold up these systems and women captive, and systems that she, as an influencer, espoused to women for over a decade. With refreshing candor, Jen explores a midlife renaissance. She grieves what's been lost, cherishes new possibilities, and relishes entering the second half of her life wide awake. Next. Okay, horror fans, I know it seems like I'm favoring you, and maybe I am, but this book and the one after it are just in time for spooky season, so they are front and center on our fall list. So, some of you might know Becky Siegel as a librarian in the reader advisory space and a lifelong horror advocate. And now she is an author, and she's compiled a captivating anthology, Why I Love Horror, a heartfelt tribute to the horror genre featuring essays from several of the most celebrated horror writers, including Grady Hendrix, Stephen Graham Jones, Tananarive Due, and more. Next. And lastly, we have Scream With Me. See, I told you a lot of horror. Horror Films and the Rise of American Feminism by Eleanor Johnson. If this sounds like the most fun college class that you wish you took, it's because it was, and it was written by this book is written by a college professor. When Dr. Eleanor Johnson watched as the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade in 2022, her students were watching Rosemary's Baby for her class. She had an epiphany about how horror cinema engages directly with the combustive politics of women's rights and offers a light through the darkness and an outlet to scream. Scream With Me weaves iconic horror films into the fabric of American feminism, revealing that true horror often lies not in the supernatural, but the familiar confines of home. This is an unflinching and timely look at how horror shapes and reflects cultural dialogues about gender and power. Next. All right, those are all of my recommendations for today. But if you are hungry for more, please go to simonandschuster.net/library, where you will find resources that I have painstakingly curated, created, and updated just for you and your patrons. You'll find info about book clubs, info about banned books, our events calendar so you can see where we're coming up next, and more. Next. All right, that is truly all from me. Most, if not all of these titles are available to read on NetGalley and or Edelweiss. Thank you so much for listening and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Next, we'll hear from Katie Vaughn. Katie is the marketing manager for Bloomsbury Publishing's adult trade team, leading campaigns across genres from debuts and indie favorites to bestsellers and award winners. Before joining Bloomsbury in October 2022, Katie was the marketing associate for Riverhead Books. She was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, and is now based in Queens, New York. The floor is yours, Katie.
Thanks so much, Susan. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to tell you about some of Bloomsbury's amazing upcoming book club picks that have either recently released or are hitting shelves soon. So moving to the next slide, you'll see that we've got a little something for everybody this summer and fall. Our picks cover everything from queer historical fiction to mythological retellings to explorations of identity and friendship. So we hope these titles will resonate with all kinds of readers. We also have great reading group guides for many of our titles, which you can find on the Bloomsbury website in the Discover tab under Resources for Readers. So please do check those out as well. And with that, we will jump right in with our first title on the next slide. And this is Mutual Interest by Olivia Wolfgang Smith, an enthralling dishy novel about ambition, sexuality, and the rise of a capitalist empire in post-Gilded Age New York. Our main character, Vivian, is desperate to flee her origins in Utica, New York, and live a life worthy of the society pages she writes for. So when she meets Oscar, a middle manager at a soap company, she finds a partner she can guide to build the life she wants. Not least because, more interested in men himself, Oscar will leave Vivian to tend to her own romances with women. As they begin to build their empire, they become entangled with Squire Clancy, a scion of an old American fortune whose love affair with Oscar soon complicates the relationship further. When exposure threatens, all three partners are made aware of just how much they have to lose. For people who loved The Gilded Age and fans of Succession who, quote, wished the show was both kinder and gayer, as Jesse Wright from Copper Dog Books puts it, Mutual Interest is a brilliant and beguiling story of desire and power, great for queer and historical fiction book clubs. And then on the next slide, we have The Hymn to Dionysus by cult favorite author Natasha Pulley. This is a mythical reimagining like you've never seen before, tackling the story of Dionysus, the Greek god of ecstasy, revelry, and ruin. In her masterful and propulsive prose, Pulley weaves a captivating queer love story between Phaedros, a soldier raised in a brutal Greek legion, and Dionysus, a blue-eyed witch whose presence sparks riots and unrest wherever he goes. Full of magic, conflict, romance, and tender humanity, this is a perfect book for all readers of mythological tales, fans of complex characters, and for those looking for a truly new and unforgettable take on the classic retelling format. As the Washington Independent Review of Books says, the Hymn to Dionysus probes the boundaries of mythos and love, leaving readers laughing through bittersweet tears. And then on the next slide, we have Lush, which is actually on sale today. It's an intoxicating debut novel from Rochelle Dowden-Lord, perfect for fans of explorations of the food and wine industry like Sweet Bitter and The Bear. Four wine experts, each at a crucial point in their lives, arrive at a French vineyard estate for an unforgettable experience, but not the kind they expected. Avery gave up her hard-won but exploitative sommelier job to come, while wine prodigy Cosmo is trying to disguise that his life is in freefall. The chemistry between the pair is unmistakable, but so are the signs of danger. Millionaire Sunny owns a tacky wine brand and can't help aggravating Cosmo, while caustic magazine writer Mayalise hovers with her pen poised. As the quartet awaits the penultimate night of the trip, when they'll taste the only bottle of one of the rarest wines in the world, it becomes clear that each of them grapples with a private crisis that they're projecting onto the contents of the bottle. Honey and Spice author Bolu Babalola calls it a sumptuous treat of a novel, and it's a perfect summer book club pick for fiction lovers. Then on the next slide, we have A Case of Mice and Murder by Sally Smith, the delightful first installment of a new mystery series. When barrister Gabriel Ward steps out of his rooms at exactly 2 minutes to 7 on a sunny May morning in 1901, his mind is so full of his latest case, the disputed authorship of best-selling children's book Millie the Temple Church Mouse, that he scarcely registers the body of the Lord Chief Justice of England on his doorstep. In the shaded courtyards and ancient buildings of the Inner Temple, the hidden heart of London's legal world, murder has spent centuries confined firmly to the casebooks, until now. The police can only enter the temple by consent, so who better to investigate this tragic breach of law and order than a man who prizes both above all things? But murder doesn't always answer to logic or reasoned argument, and Gabriel soon discovers that the temple's heavy oak doors are hiding something more surprising than he'd ever imagined. Janice Hallett, author of The Appeal, calls the book a brilliant cozy crime story as you'll ever read, and says that Gabriel Ward is a character crafted with timeless elegance that I was immediately besotted by. So this is a perfect pick for book clubs looking for mysteries, cozies, and immersion in an early 1900s English setting. Then on the next slide, we have The Tiny Things Are Heavier, a gorgeous novel from debut author Esther Afesinachi-Okonkwo. Praised by Kylie Reid and Kaba Akbar, and perfect for fans of Americana, we follow Sumi, a young Nigerian woman who comes to the United States for grad school 2 weeks after her brother Metier attempts suicide. Plagued by the guilt of leaving Metier behind, Sumi struggles to fit into her new life as a student and an immigrant. The novel explores her budding romantic relationships with two very different men and the consequences that arise from a fateful trip back to Lagos, forcing her to reckon with how far she'll go to protect the people she loves. Beautifully written and full of insight into complicated family ties, the search for home and identity, and coming of age, it's a perfect pick for book club discussions, and it's already been named the best book of 2025 by Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. Then on the next slide, we have Cry for Me, Argentina, a memoir from Argentine-American comedian and TV writer Tamra Yahia. Great for readers of Samantha Irby and Jeanette McCurdy, this is Tam's hilarious and moving account of growing up between two worlds, as her family immigrates from the US to Argentina, moves back again, all while she tries to pursue her dreams as a childhood entertainer. It's an unlikely but perfect combination of comedy and tragedy, generational struggle, and filthy sex jokes, praised by Taika Waititi, Cecily Strong, and many more, full of laugh-out-loud moments. It's the messy, blazing story of a young Argentine from a family of strong characters, including her grandfather, a Paupers salesman, and her mother, an OnlyFans model, trying to survive while holding on to her confidence, ambition, and sense of humor. Perfect for clubs seeking comedic reads and unputdownable memoirs. Then on the next slide, we have a departure. We have The Club, the never before told history of a residence for American women artists in Belle Epoque, Paris, from 1893 to 1914, written by art historian and the host of the Art Curious podcast, Jennifer Dassel. This residence was the center of expatriate living and dedication to a calling in the fine arts, and singularly harbored a generation of independent, talented, and driven American women. The club tells the story of the philanthropists who created it, the artists that it housed, and the teachers and suffragists who spent time there, offering a captivating and colorful new history. This is perfect for nonfiction book clubs interested in women's history, art history, and armchair travelers longing to visit Belle Époque Paris, with best-selling author Michael Finkel calling it an exclusive invitation to a Parisian enclave during an era of artistic and social transformation. And then on the next slide, we have Mendel Station by J.B. Huang. This is a tender debut novel that follows Miriam, a woman who, after her best friend Esther's death, loses her faith and quits her job to join the postal service. As Miriam finds herself comprising letters to Esther that she'll never deliver, reflecting on their shared childhoods and deep understanding of each other's difficult families, she also begins to find deliverance through community and the quotidian labors of love. Set in the early days of the pandemic, it's a raw and beautiful story of friendship, grief, and identity. Ling Ling Huang calls it achingly gorgeous and quietly devastating, and David Levitt calls it an intimate, generous, and funny debut from a writer we can expect to hear more of. And on all of those fronts, we can say this book truly delivers. And then on the next slide, finally, we have Bog Queen, a new novel from the best-selling author of Outlawed, which was a former Reese's Book Club pick, Anna North. This new novel is perfect for fans of climate, historical, and book club fiction like The Island of Missing Trees, and for readers of stories following women across time and with strange power like Amelia Hart's Wayward. We follow Agnes, an American forensic anthropologist who becomes entangled in a monumental discovery of an ancient woman's body perfectly preserved in an English bog that sets off a clash of worlds, both past and present. The story flashes from Agnes trying to understand how this woman died to the lyrically written life story of the woman herself becoming her community's druid, and her journey in the weeks leading up to her untimely end. Interspersed are also short chapters narrated by the moss itself, which has its own dark stories to tell. The book connects these two gifted women across time as they learn to harness their odd strengths, navigating their complex environments and the relationships enmeshed in them, making for a gripping read from start to finish. And on the last slide, that is it for Bloomsbury. Our adult trade team will have its own booth at ALA this year for the very first time, so we hope to see you there. Please do come by and meet our authors, Anna North, who will be signing Bog Queen, and J.B. Huang, who will be signing Mendel Station. And thank you so much for being here today. Please don't hesitate to reach out via email if you're interested in any of the books I mentioned, and I'm more than happy to provide review copies as long as we have them available. So don't be a stranger. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Katie. Next, we'll hear from Kathy Weiss. Kathy is Director of Sales and Marketing at Europa Editions. She has enjoyed working in many different areas of the publishing industry, including trade and academic publishing, wholesale, distribution, and online retail. She began her career at Random House in their sales and marketing department. Among her various roles, she has held executive positions at Ingram Content Group and the Book Depository, now a part of Amazon. Take it away, Kathy.
Hi, everyone. Europa Editions specializes in publishing literature from around the world. We have authors from more than 40 countries, and we are a leader in publishing translated literature. Next slide. I'm starting with Mona's Eyes, our lead title for the fall, a debut novel from France. Mona's Eyes is 52 chapters over the course of 52 weeks, with 52 masterpieces of Western art. The novel begins, everything went dark. Without warning, 10-year-old Mona loses her sight. Her parents rush her to the doctor, and while she does regain her sight later that day, the doctor fears that she has an illness which will take her sight completely during the next year. He recommends that in addition to her medical treatment, she go to a psychiatrist so she can come to terms with how drastically her life will change. Mona's grandfather, Henry, offers to take her to her weekly psychiatric appointments. However, he has something else in mind. Henry decides instead to use these weekly sessions to take her to see an artwork at one of 3 of Paris's most famous museums, the Louvre, the Musée d'Orsay, and the Pompidou. Henry and Mona share a very special bond, and these weekly outings are their secret. Together, they will take a tour of 5 centuries of Western art. Mona's grandfather hopes that introducing her to beauty will, if not save her, at least console her, and each chapter and artwork have a life lesson. Thomas Slessor is an art historian and a professor of art history. Publishers Weekly called Mona's Eyes a vibrant debut and said readers of Sophie's World will love this. Sophie's World has sold hundreds of thousands of copies in the US. This multi-generational story contains many themes for book club discussions. A reading group guide is available. Next slide. I just want to say a couple of more words about Thomas. He has gone from relatively unknown to international literary superstar almost overnight. Rights have now sold to 60 countries and 37 languages. Mona's Eyes has sold over 400,000 copies in France and has been a bestseller in the other countries in which it has already been published. Film rights have been sold. And one other thing I want to mention is it's very important to Thomas that the blind and visually impaired have access to the visual arts, and he takes great care in giving descriptions of the artworks in the book. So in addition to publishing the print and ebook, Europa will also be publishing the audiobook and a large print edition. Next slide. The Book of I is a short yet incredibly immersive historical novel set over 1 year in the Middle Ages. It's the first novel by Scottish playwright David Grieg. We just learned that it's been selected by the American Bookseller Association for their Summer-Fall 25 Indies Introduce. The ABA only selects 20 debut authors per year to feature. The novel takes place on Iona, simply known as I, a small remote island off the western coast of Scotland. The story opens in AD 825 with a terrible massacre, which is described with more than a touch of dark humor. A band of Viking warriors raids the island and its monastery, killing most of its population. The only survivors are an unlikely trio: Brother Martin, a young monk who has escaped martyrdom thanks to a very opportune last-minute visit to the latrine; Una, a mead maker and beekeeper whose violent husband is killed in the attack; and Grimmer, an older Viking who was knocked unconscious during the raid and was left for dead by his comrades, buried in a shallow grave. Over the course of a year following the raid, these three protagonists will slowly put aside their distrust of one another and will learn to live together. The Book of I is a story about redemption and how even the most broken of people can find transformation in unexpected places. It's for fans of Hilary Mantel, Maggie O'Farrell, and The Matrix by Lauren Groff. There will be a quote from Emma Donoghue on the cover saying, "A dazzling fresh take on early medieval life, as funny as it is moving. The Book of I is a wild trip." Next slide. Vulture is a debut novel by Phoebe Greenwood, a British journalist and foreign correspondent. She was the only Western journalist in Gaza in 2012 when Israel assassinated the Hamas leader and war was declared. Vulture is a novel based on that experience. Although Phoebe is not Sarah, our protagonist, the war detail is factual and many of the characters are inspired by real people. We are calling this book Catch-22 on speed. Vulture is a fast-paced satire of the war news industry and its moral blind spots. Sarah is a young reporter determined to be a star correspondent. She sets herself up at the Beach Hotel in Gaza, which is the hotel for all the media covering the war. Sarah uses a fixer, a local, to set up interviews for her stories. However, when her local fixer refuses to set up the dangerous story she thinks will win her the front page, she turns instead to a young member of a powerful militant family. It quickly becomes clear that Sarah will stop at nothing. Writer and photojournalist Michael Hodges described Vulture as Martha Gellhorn meets Martin Amis. And NPR just selected it as one of the best new summer books and said, "Vulture is a daring, dark comedy that doesn't shy away from the horrors that have been going on in the Palestinian territories for too long." A reading group guide is available. Next slide. The Rarest Fruit is a historical novel set in the 19th century on Reunion Island, an island in the Indian Ocean. And it is based on the true story of Edmund Albius, a young Creole boy born into slavery whose extraordinary talent for botany leads him to revolutionize the vanilla industry with his method of hand-pollinating orchids. Orphaned as a baby, Edmund is raised by a white man who is a passionate botanist, and Edmund grows up to share this passion. Defying the expectations of his time, he makes a discovery that literally changes the world and dessert as we know it today. Bellum beautifully weaves together the stories of Edmund, Reunion Island, and vanilla itself. This book is perfect for readers of The Orchid Thief and Washington Black. And as you can see from the slide, it received a wonderful starred review from Publishers Weekly. Next slide. The Dalton series is written by a very talented young American writer and fellow librarian, Shannon Bowring. We are publishing this series as original paperbacks. Shannon writes about small-town America, and these novels take readers into the private and public lives of the inhabitants of a small town in Maine. The first two titles in the series received great critical acclaim. The American Booksellers Association selected both The Road to Dalton and Where the Forest Meets the River for Indie Next for reading groups, and they have been selected for multiple community reads. The first two books can be read as standalone novels, so I hope you will consider one or both for your book club before we publish the final volume in A Distant Valley. This is a very bingeable series for book clubs. Next slide. We have two great book club books coming out in paperback this summer. The first is Forgotten on Sunday, which is another deeply emotional novel by the best-selling author of Freshwater for Flowers. And Booklist calls it perfect for fans of Jojo Moyes and Kate Morton. Next slide. And the other is A Good Life, which is a beautiful and tender exploration of sisterhood. And it was just selected by the American Bookseller Association for summer 2025 reading groups. Next slide. Europa's best-selling author is Elena Ferrante, and her series, The Neapolitan Quartet, has sold well over 1 million copies. Last summer, the New York Times picked My Brilliant Friend as the best book of the century so far. This has drawn tens of thousands of new readers to the series. NPR calls the series one of modern fiction's richest portraits of friendship. It is a great series for book clubs. Next slide. And Elena Ferrante has always considered the story of Lenu and Lila as one long saga. So for the first time this fall, we will be bringing the story together in one volume. It will be a deluxe cloth edition with sprayed edges and colored end papers. Next slide. Europa Editions is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. Next slide. To celebrate our 20 years, our publisher selected 20 titles important to our publishing journey to feature. We are publishing new editions of some of our most popular titles, some with bonus content including author Q&As and reading group guides. We have a new edition of the New York Times bestselling The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbary and The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante. The Days of Abandonment was also named a Best Book of the Century by the New York Times, and it is being made into a major motion picture starring Penelope Cruz. Next slide. And one more new addition to point out in particular is Old Filth by Jane Gardam. Next slide. If you are attending the ALA, please come to Europa's booth. We'll be at 1333B in the Ingram Pavilion. I will be there, and I will be giving away galleys and finished books for the books just mentioned in this presentation and more. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. All this talk of free galleys is getting me very excited for annual. Finally, we'll hear from Kendra Martin. Kendra is the Sales and Marketing Manager for Dundurn Press. She has been involved in many book clubs over the years and thinks book clubs are best paired with good company and good food. Her favorite genres to read lately are atmospheric police procedurals, literary fiction, and dipping her toes back into poetry. Thanks for joining us, Kendra.
Thanks, Susan. Hi, I'm from Dundurn Press, one of Canada's largest independent publishers. We seek to amplify and elevate exceptional Canadian voices, particularly those that have not yet been discovered or have been previously underrepresented in trade publishing. And Dundurn's books are distributed by Ingram in the US. Next slide. I'll start out with A Different Hurricane, which is a novel that follows best friends Gordon and Alan, whose passionate love is kept secret on their home island, St. Vincent in the Caribbean, where most people still dogmatically cling to Old World theology, Old Testament theology. So through study abroad and their marriages to women, these men still maintain their secret love, and they even manage to dupe the women in their lives until illness and a secret diary threaten to expose them to their homophobic community. So, A Different Hurricane would be perfect for book clubs that are interested in the Black Caribbean experience, especially discussing how homophobia affects the lives of gay and bisexual men in this part of the world. Next slide. Shipwrecked Souls is the latest outing in a police procedural series by a Jewish writer, Barbara Fradkin, that's set in present day, but the stories often have echoes of the past. So when a cryptic note is found on the body of an elderly Ukrainian woman who recently emigrated to the town, Inspector Green is working through tracing into her past. His investigation will lead him on an emotional journey into his own family history. Green makes a startling discovery and uncovers long hidden secrets tied to the Second World War that led to present day murder. Give this mystery series to fans of Louise Penny or Tana French. I love that this series hits themes of the long shadow of the Holocaust. And in this outing, we have modern day issues of the war in Ukraine. And it really continues this story of a complicated and interesting Jewish police detective. And just noting that all the books can be read as standalones. Next slide. This is a true crime story that tackles abuse, cultural genocide, and Indigenous rights. Arctic Predator reveals how a trusted teacher in Canada's North, well respected for his revolutionary teaching style, was actually hiding a horrible secret that he was a pedophile who was sexually abusing his male students. This story is true crime. It's all about his devastating effect on Inuit communities that still lasts today. The author takes a very sensitive and journalistic approach to telling this story, and I think it will allow book clubs to view the story from many angles, looking at how the crimes by one man left reverberations on a whole generation of young men, their families, and their community. It also offers insight into the ways of the Inuit who live in Canada's Arctic. Next slide. So back to fiction, The Hype Beast is a very masculine crime story, and it centers around a protagonist named Hamid, who is an online scammer. He's also a dreamer, and he wants to get ahead in life and make it, and so he ends up getting pulled into the world of phone scams, money laundering, and online religious influencers. His coming of age story is set during the messiness of late stage capitalism and is both funny and heartbreaking. I think that book clubs will really enjoy this one if they want to discuss modern Islam, an aimless generation of lost men that's depicted in this story, the aftermath of the war on terror, as well as the dovetailing of faith and greed that can be found in this story. Next slide. So next, I have a pick that is bursting with flavor, and it's perfect for a foodie book club. So this story collection, Annapurna's Bounty, features original short fiction from the author Veena Gokhale, inspired by India's rich culture and folk tales. And all of these stories feature food in some way. And then each of these 10 stories is followed by a recipe that is written by the author, and it's a dish or food that is mentioned in the preceding story. So I think how cool would it be to host a book club and each person chooses their favorite story or dish and makes that recipe to share at the meeting. It's a really warm and inviting celebration of Indian food and storytelling wrapped up together. Next slide. So next I want to talk about some historical fiction we have coming out. The Road to Goderich is the story of a charismatic young clergyman from Scotland who emigrates to Ontario in the early 1800s. This clergyman becomes wildly popular in the new town for standing up to British colonial authorities until he's exposed as an imposter. This story of early settler times interrogates class, money, power, and women's rights in a sweeping, adventurous love story set in the wilds of colonial Ontario, when new identities could be manifested by just simply moving to a new community. The author, Linda McQuaig, is a popular left-leaning journalist and politician whose debut novel really successfully marries adventure and romance we love in historical fiction with these deeper themes of women's rights and workers' rights that were coming up in this time period. Next slide. I want to take you next to the Adirondacks in 1916, when the mountain air was often prescribed as a cure for those suffering from tuberculosis. In this psychological drama, a love triangle is complicated further by a mysterious young woman who is convalescing in this tuberculosis resort, who attracts the attention of two very different men who fall under her spell. And as her life story comes out, it's tangled and confused, and it's very clear that she's hiding things from her past. Can she overcome her trauma to allow the men she loves ever really know her? This slow burn psychological drama covers issues of illness, unwanted pregnancy, and the Me Too movement, and I think there's a lot for book clubs here. Next slide. We have a really big novel for Dundurn for fall. This is from a TikTok influencer who makes really popular videos on Korean literature and culture. Jinu Park, this is his debut novel, Oxford Soju Club. It's a thoughtful spy drama for readers who loved the existential suspense of Viet Thanh Nguyen's The Sympathizer. The story weaves together a North Korean spy cell and a Korean American CIA agent on their tracks in the town of Oxford. The South Korean restaurant owner of the Soju Club is the unwitting center of this spy game playing out at his restaurant. This is a genre-bending spy thriller that explores immigrants and the masks they all wear in order to survive in foreign places. Within the tense atmosphere of a spy thriller, we have emotional undercurrents as each character grapples with their identity as members of the Korean diaspora. Carissa Chen, bestselling author of Homeseeking, said that Oxford Soju Club is an astute examination of identity, diaspora, and longing, cleverly masquerading as a spy thriller. So I really love that. And I really think this is not a debut to be missed. I am going to be featuring this at Dundurn's ALA booth. We will have galleys there, so please come by or check it out on Nick Galley and Edelweiss. Next. So Under the Full and Crescent Moon is a deeply researched historical novel set during the Islamic Golden Age around the 12th century in a fictional Mediterranean city with a matriarchal order. Our protagonist is an educated young woman, a scribe very knowledgeable in the laws of her city. But she is forced to step up against newcomers who threaten the matriarchal order, who are trying to weaponize laws to their own ends. Book clubs with a focus on historical fiction will love to be immersed in a historical Muslim story full of strong female characters at a place where religious diversity is a strength rather than a weakness. And this is for readers of Nadia Hashimi and Joka Althari. Next slide. So I want you to imagine a super race of women who feed off the pregnancy of humans. That's the premise of Homo sapiens by Emily Whedon. These vampiric women secretly hold control and power in the world in a sort of shadow society. They're judges, bankers, and business owners. And one man, our protagonist, is about to discover that his pregnant wife might be in danger from this secret cabal. So it's part detective story, as our main character is a police detective, part vampire thriller, and it's got themes of body horror. Homo sapiens is a feminist twist on the classic vampire trope, imagining women as all-powerful, bloodthirsty apex predator. So I think this would be a great pick for horror or mystery book club that's looking to sort of throw traditional tropes on their heads, and also a really great Halloween read. Next slide. Thank you so much for your time today. And then just a reminder that if you want to receive digital galleys, you can email me directly. And you can also find us on NetGalley and Edelweiss. We will be at ALA conference later in June. And so please come say hi to me and pick up some galleys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kendra. And a big thank you to all of today's presenters. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. You can also find out about the latest webinars on our social channels. Visit us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now Blue Sky. We are thrilled to announce that the digital version of Booklist Reader, the monthly reader's advisory magazine from the editors of Booklist, is now an ALA member benefit. Head over to our new and updated site to start reading. And if you're not already a Booklist subscriber, you'll use your ALA membership ID to sign in. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster, Bloomsbury, Europa Editions, and Dundurn. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.